We don't really know where the world is gonna go, but now everybody knows that you can't stop for too long. Got to keep. But now everybody knows. Got to keep.
You don't have to be retired to receive tax-free income. The problem is the vehicles that we've been conditioned to believe to help get us there were never designed to produce income.
Got to keep going. What you want to be going, you will see.
All ideas.
It's your destiny, be in harmony. We were never meant to be apart. What you want to be going, you will see. You can have everything you want. It's your destiny, be in harmony.
If you had a machine in your garage and all you had to do was put a quarter in it and it printed out $100, put a quarter in it, printed out $100, would you ever stop that machine from running?
I know everybody knows.
So what if you use that job that you hate as leverage to fill your machine so they can create income for you, so you don't have to worry about income?
You know where the world is gonna go. I know everybody knows that you can't stop for too long. Got to keep going.
Good evening. Are you ready? You still on the jam?
Yeah, let's do it.
We should play it one more time. Okay, tonight we're going to talk about leverage. What is leverage? Where is yours? And what's the last time that you've said, you know what? I would have totally taken advantage of that opportunity if I could have, right? Tonight it's all about getting yourself, realizing where your leverage that you currently have, right? Being able to identify probably leverage that you didn't know you were sitting on and what to do with it. I think anytime somebody's considering leveling up or leveraging an asset, sometimes they're not making the best decisions with it. But could it be that you're sitting on opportunities? Could it be that you're missing out on opportunities and your opportunity to grow wealth with your assets? I think this is a supercharged strategy of what we're talking about tonight. When we're giving a personal example. So even better, it's proof.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know that it's a trend that we started or anything, but it definitely is a trend where these different gurus are saying, hey, don't worry about that. Come over here, do this so that you can leverage all of the money you have to be able to become that millionaire or invest in what you want. And what I mean by that is, don't worry about your 401k. Take that tax and penalty hit. Come on over here and invest in my thing. Or you know what? These cash value life insurance products, only this one is the best. Why? Because this one allows you to leverage it and do this infinite thing and become your own, all of those everyone has their own pocket of how and what type of leverage to use. And I think what we do and what we do really, really well is identify where all of our leverage is located and kind of proving how all of those different pieces of leverage go together to help us accomplish our goals. And so our objective today, you said it very well along the lines of our personal approach. This is different for me because usually we're doing an example about a client or something like that. This is absolutely what we do and what we're going to walk through. I don't know that we've done before. You're going to get some insight into how these different pieces of this puzzle actually go together, how they are capable of working together, and how we can use them to take action and function and have control. We talk about this thing called being self-directed. And, we say it a lot, but I don't know that people realize self-directed is just, I'll call it your ability to have control. So being self-directed says, I don't have to wait for a bank. I don't have to wait for a financial institution. I don't have to get permission from my job. We have the ability to take control and take action when we want, how we want. And when it comes to, because leverage implies borrow. Leverage implies using maybe other people's money. Leverage implies something that I'm using, and at some point I'm going to have to pay it back. Well, having control over that process, when, how, what the steps are, how long will it take, what's the interest rate? Maybe I even get to control the interest rate. Like these are all things that I don't know that we've ever talked about from I'll call it a 10,000 foot view holistically. And that's what today is. Today is kind of better understanding where your leverage is located and what it looks like to be able to access, take control of, use that leverage to accomplish your goal. A lot of words. A lot of words.
Yeah, well, they're important words, and it was a key to our journey and our success is understanding where leverage is, how to use it, and then how to supercharge it by stacking them up on top of each other and understanding how these things speak to each other. So, but we're building this is how we built our machine
Right.
by understanding what it was that we had. Then when we started talking to other investors or just people in the investment space in general, like for instance, they wanted us to invest with them, right? Or they had a way of investing that they had gotten their success from. And there are many ways to 10, but sometimes when you understand your leverage, then you start to hear things. You can't unhear it. You start to hear, well, why wouldn't they have added this piece in there, right? Why wouldn't they be talking about that piece? Because they're leaving so many people out of the equation of who could invest with them. They're leaving people out and who they could be educating on this investment type or strategy, right? Simply because they have just said, this is the way that I do it. It keeps it simple and I don't talk about anything else. And it's unfortunate because I think for them, they get to make that decision. But don't you want the choice? Wouldn't you want the choice of how you are going to structure, because you may have different tools available to you right now. And after tonight, you'll learn how to use them or put them into action. You ready to get started?
Yeah, yeah. But one thing right before that, I would love for the audience to do me a favor.
Ooh.
Um, whether you're watching live or watching replay, it doesn't matter because it's the same thought process. I'm curious is as I walk through this, what am I missing? Like I'm going to walk you through what it is we do, and we talk about it all the time. There's many ways to 10. These are not the only actions steps. These are not the only products. This is not the only approach. So I am very curious. I would love to hear in the comments, whether again, live or replay, I would love to hear a different perspective on, you know what, you missed this. Or yeah, those products are great, but what about? Like, what am I missing? Because this example or this live kind of came to me in the middle of the night. Like I was asleep and it dawned on me. I talked so much about leverage. We've never really kind of laid out, what all the different vehicles are. We talk about it one at a time or a specific example about one specific piece of leverage. We never talked about it holistically. So I'm very curious as to, I'm looking for feedback is my point. I'm very curious as to what I might be missing, what holes are there in this process. So I'll leave it there.
Yeah, or if there's an asset type or vehicle product that you have that we aren't discussing here,
Yeah,
and say, what could I do with this, right? Like I have this vehicle, what could I do with it? Could this be a part of the same type of machine? Yeah,
absolutely.
it's a great
Absolutely.
question. Okay. All right. Well, I see tons of people in the chat. Thank you all so much for joining us. We love to see you guys in here. So if you haven't joined in the chat and you're watching, please do, because this is where we're kind of building a family. This is where you can talk to people, you can celebrate with others, you can ask questions. This is the best time to ask questions or even just share a comment. If you just want to give some feedback, we love that. So, okay, let's dive in. Let's do it.
That went
Oh,
faster than normal, didn't it?
yeah, a little bit. Okay, here we go.
So the goal for today, where is your leverage? Where is it located? And let's kind of build a foundation. Let's set the stage for what it is we're going to talk about. When we're talking about leverage, let's just go to Google and define leverage. Like, what do I even mean? And rather than read all of that, I'll just focus my attention here. It's the use of borrowed money to purchase. Doesn't matter what else it says, but it's the use of borrowed money to purchase. Don't care what we're purchasing: car, real estate, land, REIT, subject to, self storage facilities. Does not matter. Businesses, it's leverage is using other people's money in some cases to be able to do other things. And yes, that does mean that there's going to be some payback period, but the moral of the story is I want to know, where is your leverage? And What are those vehicles that you understand fully how to leverage, but maybe there are these other vehicles over here that you didn't realize were even an option? And so you've seen this slide before. What do most people do as it relates to leverage and using leverage to be able to make purchases or whatever the case may be? What do most people do? Well, people will take their income and they will even, I'll call it, pilfer their retirement accounts to purchase and or save a home. Meaning, let's say you're going into foreclosure, or you got laid off from your job, and so you need to now catch up on the mortgage payments. We will empty our retirement to save this home. And one of the pieces that we talk about a lot on this channel is, what if you were able to better leverage your home to actually build your nest egg to the point where using or leveraging this home enough to where even if something occurred where you needed to pay off the home, you could use this piece, your nest egg, to do so. So it's leveraging your income, leveraging your home to be able to generate a vehicle that can produce income for you. That's the goal. But what most people do is they will take this and they take this to save that. And to do what? To gain a mortgage that ultimately, again, when you peel back the layers on a mortgage, ultimately buy the bank two homes, a home for you and one for the bank. There are two homes being purchased in most cases with a mortgage. That's just what people normally do. Well, we're looking at this from a different perspective. And when we talk about leverage, what are those different types of vehicles? Like, what are those different options available to you to be able to leverage? This is my list. This is no one else's list. I may be missing some things. And one of the things I know I'm missing, because my wife kind of highlighted it earlier, is OPM. Other people's money is also a vehicle that can be leveraged and or used to be able to do other things. But what else is missing from this list? Again, we're talking mortgages. Mortgages can be leveraged. First position, second position, home equity lines of credit. Your savings account can be leveraged. Personal credit cards, business credit cards, PLOCs, BLOCs, company retirement accounts, self-directed retirement accounts, and then cash value life insurance products to include annuities. And this last one, or the second to last one here, at some point, the world is going to catch up to crypto. And just so we're clear, I'm not a fan of crypto, but the bottom line is, at some point, the world is going to catch up to digital currency, and you will be able to borrow against digital currency. It's coming. I'm sure in some cases it already exists, but as far as mainstream, it is coming. So these are the vehicles I identified. What's missing? And there's some simple ones here that I know on this list, like multifamily homes or real estate. And the question is, how do all of these products compare? Like, when you look at all of them holistically on one sheet, how do all of them compare against each other? So what dawned on me was, this is an approach that I've never kind of gone down. This is a path I haven't gone down. I use these vehicles a lot, all of them, to do many different things. But I've never looked at them together, side by side, to assess which ones are better than the others. Which ones do I have control over? I've never done that before. And so the thought process today is, let's take a look at these vehicles, or majority of them, and let's compare them. So how do these vehicles compare? And so I have this assumption here. This is my disclaimer. First off, the assumption is the vehicles that we are going to compare, you already have. I am not saying I have to go qualify or get approved or apply for any of these vehicles. I'm saying you already have them. So the first assumption is, as we walk through these different products, you already have them. They already exist. They are already in your possession, and you're already capable of using them. And then the last one is, this is solely my perspective, and it's based off what we actually do. And so what I mean by that is, you can question my process. You can question what I'm doing, but you cannot say I'm wrong for doing it, because this is exactly what we do. So my point is, this is my opinion, my approach on how these vehicles match up and how these vehicles compare. And the feedback I'm looking for is, what am I missing? when I walk you through my thought process, when you get inside my head, because I'm a little bit weird, when you get inside my head, what am I missing? Is what I want to hear from you. So here's the criteria in which we're going to measure these different products. This may be hard to read, so I'll go through it. Leverageability. We're going to start with this product that you have, whether it's a mortgage, a line of credit, a credit card, doesn't matter. Is it leverageable? What do I mean? Meaning yes or no. If I have this product like a mortgage, can I leverage it? Can I borrow against it? Can I use it? This line of credit that I have, can I leverage against it? Can I use it? Do you have to qualify? What do I mean by that? Well, you already have the vehicle. So I'm not saying do you have to qualify to be able to get the vehicle. You already have it. So if it's a mortgage, you already have the mortgage. If it's a line of credit, you already have the mortgage. But I'm saying to use the money in it, to leverage the money in it, do you then again have to qualify? Is the question. Interest rate. And this one was tough for me. Interest rate, what I'm saying is it good? Is it bad? Does it depend? Or do you have control over it? And we'll get into the specifics. But again, I'm not looking to peel back the layers or go down any rabbit hole as it relates to interest rate. I'm just looking at, is it good? Is it bad? Does it depend? Or do you have control? Simple. And then, is payback required? Of these different items that we're looking at, the question is, am I required to pay back the money? Yes or no? Payback time frame. Who's in control of the payback time frame? If I borrow money from my mom, does she dictate the time frame or do I? If I borrow money from this bank, do I dictate the time frame to pay it back or do they? So it's where does this fit in that list? And then do you control it? Meaning, do you need permission from some other higher entity in order for you to be able to use your money in the vehicle that you already have? Do you control it? Do you need someone else's permission? Is there, or do you have multi-use or single use out of the money that you use inside this vehicle? What do I mean by multi-use or single use? Well, if I leverage, which means borrow, if I borrow money from this vehicle and I use it, once I use it, is at the end? Or is there a system created such that I can use it more than once, over and over again? Or is it once I've used it, I have to now go back through the process to be able to use it again, is the question. And then these last two, again, if this is a subject that you're interested in, I think these last two are where I kind of, I'm not even confident in my assessment based off these last two, but let me explain what I'm saying. Impact on your credit report. What I mean is when, again, you've already got the vehicle. So if you needed to qualify to get the vehicle, there was an impact to your credit or you had to have great credit to use it. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying when you use the dollars in the vehicle, is there an impact to your credit report? Is there a further impact to your ability to do other things is the question. And then this last one, the impact on your credit score. And again, I get it. To get the product, there was probably an impact on your credit score. I'm saying while using it, is there further impact to your credit score is the question. So this is the criteria that I'm using to assess those vehicles that I listed. So now let's kind of talk through the list. And again, I get it. This is busy. You might want to move me, sweetheart. This is busy. I am not asking you to be able to read anything in this document. I just want you to look at it. Look at green. Green is good. Look at yellow. Yellow is and red is bad. So if I'm just looking at green, yellow, and red of the different vehicles that we're going to talk about, again, mortgages, lines of credit, savings. I'll dig into the detail. I will zoom in. We'll make this bigger. But my point is, when you look at this, there's some automatic things that jump out. There are some vehicles that seem like they are pretty strong, meaning all green. And then there are some vehicles that, you know what? Whoa, even though I have it, I can't leverage it. I can't use it. Or there are some that, man, can I use it? Should I use it? Are there vehicles that are better? So again, when you watch this on replay, or if you're watching it now and you want to pause and zoom in, we can do all of that. I'm telling you, I will go into the detail, I promise. But my point is, just take a look at this and let's look at it from a big picture. Which one's good, which one's bad? And based off the criteria that I mentioned. So now let's dig in a little bit closer. So here, I'll come over here. If we're talking about a mortgage, and again, I'm not going to go through all of these, but I just want to highlight a few pieces. If we're talking about a mortgage, is that mortgage leverageable? Meaning you have the mortgage. Can you take money out of your mortgage and use it? You cannot. You cannot. But if you want to use the equity that's created as you pay down that mortgage, you have to do what? Apply for a line of credit. So, is it leverageable? No. Do you have to qualify to leverage the money in the mortgage? Yes, you do. Meaning, I have to go to the bank, get their permission, fill out a application. They will assess my credit, run my credit, and probably do an appraisal as well to as to whether or not I qualify to be able to use my money. But if this was a first position home equity line of credit, or a second position home equity line of credit, or even your checking and savings account, is it leverageable? If you already have a line of credit, is it leverageable? Can you use the room in it? Yes. Do you have to qualify? Do you have to go to the bank, ask, submit an application for? Do you have to get an appraisal to be able to use the money in the vehicle? No. So understand my logic. I'm looking at from a leverage perspective or a qualified perspective, it's opposite. If it's leverageable, yes, it's positive. That's green. If I don't have to qualify for it, meaning no, that's positive. That's green. So the words in here, don't worry about it. Just look at the color. Yes, no, positive, bad, good. What does it say? So again, mortgage compared to lines of credit, it's pretty simple. The interest rate on a mortgage or a line of credit, I'm calling it both. It could be good. It could be bad. It could be bad. And it really depends. Meaning, I could put it in yellow because it really depends on when you get it. It really depends on where you got it from. It really depends on how long you've had it. So there are factors that it can be a good product, meaning from an interest rate perspective. But here's the fact. Here's what would make it green. Can I control the interest rate? No. So whether you were talking about a mortgage or a line of credit as it relates to the interest rate, I'm calling that yellow. And then payback required. If I use the money in it, whether that's a mortgage, a line of credit, if I use the money that's in it, or compared to my savings, if I use the money that's in it, am I required to pay it back? It's pretty simple. The answer is yes. If it's a line of credit or your mortgage, I am required to pay it back. But I don't want to be required. I want control. When we talk about leverage on this channel, or we talk about getting self-directed on this channel, we talk about taking action, taking control to be able to do what you want to do when you want to do it. If I leverage the money in my savings or checking account, am I required to pay it back? I'm not. So I have more control. So again, that's where the logic is coming in this criteria that I'm setting. The payback time frame. Do I have control over when I pay it back, how long I pay it back, that time frame around the payback being done? And what I'm saying related to mortgages and lines of credit, it depends. Meaning I can pay my mortgage off early, but if I'm in year 28 and I'm $300,000 away from paying off my mortgage, I'm running out of time because it's a 30-year mortgage. If I've got a line of credit, like a first position or a second position, there's a draw period. So yes, I have some control, but if it pushes close to that draw period, I need to take other action. So I put it depends. But if we're comparing it to a checking account, I absolutely have control over that time frame. I can choose to pay it back, not pay it back, and I have control over the time in which I get it paid back. So again, just what I want you to take away from all of this is just the nomenclature, what's yellow, what's green, what's positive, what's negative as it relates to this criteria, again, that I created. This is my criteria. I'm very curious to hear if I missed something. Okay. All right. So payback time frame. Do you have to ask for permission to use the money in the vehicles? So if we're talking about a mortgage or a first or second position line of credit, if I want to use the equity created in my mortgage, I have to get permission from the bank. The bank has to allow me to be able to leverage my equity. Versus if I have a first or second position home equity line of credit, I don't have to ask anybody to use money. It is accessible to me in most cases by debit card. So it is not it's not under anyone else's control but mine during that draw period. Now, outside of that draw period, a whole nother story. But the bottom line is I don't have to ask permission to use my money. And then multi-use. What do I mean by multi-use again? Again, when I'm able to use that money that I had to get qualified for inside my mortgage, when I have it, I can use it for whatever I want. And if it's a line of credit, as I use it, pay it back, I can use it again, pay it back, use it again, pay it back. There's multiple uses. Versus your savings, is it multi-use or single use? Once that dollar leaves my savings, it's not coming back. Once that dollar leaves my savings, it's gone. So when we educate around velocity banking, we educate around the fact that we are used to money coming into our checking account, going towards bills, and we never see it again. The idea behind velocity banking is income comes into our checking account, goes into some type of debt tool, which allows us to get multiple uses out of the same dollar. So as we look at these different, didn't mean to do that. As we look at these different vehicles, are you able to get multiple uses out of the same dollar when you are able to access the money in them? So as it relates to a line of credit or even the mortgage, the answer is yes, I can get multiple uses as compared to a savings account. And then the last two, impact on your credit report. If you wanted to access the equity inside your mortgage, you have to get qualified for it, and it is going to impact your credit report. Good, bad, whatever it is going to impact it. Versus if I already have the line of credit, my credit report has already been impacted. I had to qualify to get those products. So when I'm using the money inside of it, my credit report isn't impacted. Now, my credit score will be impacted. Why? Because as I use the money in the vehicle, my debt to income ratio works like an accordion. If there's no balance on the line of credit, my credit score loves that. But as the balance on that line of credit increases and my utilization of that line of credit increases, my credit score doesn't necessarily like that. So I know I went to a lot of detail, but I just wanted to make sure we understand the criteria that we're in. And now, as we move down this list, and follow me, sweetheart. That was kind of, see what I'm doing here?
Ah, okay.
So I skipped over the business lines of credit and the credit cards. Here's why. I think we all understand how business lines of credit and credit cards function in this list. We're not going to talk about those today. I want to move over here to, let me go there. I want to move over here to traditional retirement accounts. These are your company retirement accounts. These are the retirement accounts that you have with the company that you work for. And I apologize, sweetheart. I know what I didn't do. I didn't leave a space for me.
Yep.
Bad. But when we talk about your company's retirement account, in most cases, are they leverageable? Meaning, can I use the money in my retirement accounts before I retire? In most cases, you can. In most cases, your employer will allow you to leverage some portion of your company's retirement account. Not all, but most will. Do you have to qualify? I put no there, but here's the thing. If you've only been with the company a year compared to I've been with the company 20 years, there may be situations where you can access more depending on how long you've been with the company, because I don't know that you have enough in your retirement to be able to leverage. So my point is, I still put you don't have to qualify, but that might be different.
Yeah, because
Now,
it could be
go ahead, sweetheart.
even vested funds, right?
Yeah,
If the funds
yeah,
are vested, you wouldn't qualify to borrow them. So if they aren't vested, so that's where I think it could depend actually.
right,
But do you have to apply with your credit
right,
and your income, your debt to income
right,
ratio? Does that any of that matter?
right.
Yeah, it's
And
different.
now, the piece I want to highlight is this middle section. And again, what I am looking for when it talks about leverage is I'm looking for my ability to control. I don't want anyone in my pocket. I don't want anyone looking over my shoulder. I want full access and control to be able to do what I want to do when I want to do it. And in most cases, with your retirement account, you have none. You have no control over the payback period. Now, I know what the IRS says. The IRS says you have 5 years, but your company gets to decide whether it's 5 years or not. You have no control over the time frame because you don't get to decide when and how you pay it back. It's going to automatically come out of your check, and the interest rate that was set, you had no control over setting that interest rate. Now, it might be a good one, but you have no control over how it's set. So my point is, there's control missing as it relates to leveraging your company's retirement account. And now, let's. I guess I'll cover that first. What about self-directed retirement accounts? Self-directed IRAs, self-directed 401ks. And again, this is a space that I am in, and I am in very heavy. Self-directed IRAs and 401ks. I get a lot of calls around, hey, I've got this old or this previous employer plan and I want to be able to use to invest and do other things. And most call wanting a self-directed IRA. Why? Should ask yourself why. The reason most come to me looking for an IRA is because banks love IRAs because they are, I'll call it, they are, I guess, glorified savings accounts is what they are. And so banks love them. But as it relates to leverage, as it relates to you being able to leverage your IRA, self-directed or company, you being able to leverage your IRA to do whatever you want. How much control do you have? None. You cannot borrow leverage against an IRA if you are below the age of 59 and a half. Now, at 59 and a half, you can take withdrawals, but you cannot leverage. Leverage implies a borrowed dollar amount. You cannot leverage a self-directed IRA, but a self-directed 401k, you actually have a fair amount of control, more control than most people realize they have. Why? Because with a self-directed 401k, you are the sole decision maker. You are what's called the trustee. And as the trustee, you dictate what's happened inside this product. So think of all of the companies that offer self-directed retirement accounts. KKOS, directed IRA. I was about to say thousands. There's not thousands. There's hundreds of them. There's a lot of people that offer self-directed retirement accounts. When you're looking for one and you're wanting something that you can leverage against, there's only one that allows you to leverage, and that is a self-directed 401k. And again, I won't go into the details, but the bottom line is you get to control what the interest rate is. You get to control the timing. You get to control how the action is taken. Go ahead, sweetheart.
I just want to point out, one, we also offer self-directed 401ks and IRAs for those who prefer that, or that is the best case for them. For some people, they have no choice but to have a self-directed IRA, right?
Great point. And so, okay, let me rewind. Let me reel this back in. Because I'm not here to poo-poo on self-directed IRAs. Because you're right, I offer both. And there are situations where a self-directed IRA is a great vehicle. But what are we talking about today? We're talking about where is your leverage? If you're looking for leverage, a self-directed IRA is not a vehicle that you will find leverage in.
And that is the point that I wanted to bring up. There are, I would say, like a handful, probably like 5 major real estate investment conferences that happen every single year. We're talking about thousands of people who buy tickets at, let's just call it from $800 to $1,200 a pop for these tickets per event, are right? around the year, there's these major real estate investment events. What's crazy to me is you will not hear them talk about, they'll invite people, the expert speakers, right? So that you can get the top information. And every single time I see them only talking about self-directed IRAs. And when I ask them, well, what about somebody come talk about self-directed 401ks and how you can invest in real estate using that because it's way more flexible. They don't want anybody to come and talk about self-directed 401ks. They already have somebody. They can't have somebody who's talking about self-directed IRAs and then somebody talking about self-directed 401ks because that would somehow impede on the partnership that they have with these people. So why wouldn't the people who are talking about self-directed IRAs, why would they limit and exclude talking about self-directed 401ks?
Who benefits?
Just looking at this list, I want you to ask yourself, why would they do that? Why wouldn't it just make sense that you hear more about self-directed 401ks than you would self-directed IRAs, especially if you're talking about investment events? Oh, I think that's plug and we'll see if that helps. All the tech issues will be gone because our new studio is almost done and we will be moving into that space. So we can celebrate that. Give it up for us with that. The point is that you think that this self-directed 401k would be more popular than any other vehicle that you could self-direct, that you could have full control over. But there are not just one, but many reasons why banks that this IRA will be the first out of their mouths. IRAs will be the first out of a lot of the company who offer them. They will not offer you a 401k. And there aren't just one, but there's more reasons why they do this. And it's even more important that you're aware of that because when you're out there asking questions or you're looking for who can help me, what fees will I pay or do they charge? You're looking for how much control will I or won't I have? Knowing what questions to ask and how to obtain these vehicles, or if you currently have some of these vehicles and you thought that you had leverage, to be able to ask questions to find out where the red tape is and can you actually leverage it at all? That's it. Mic drop. Are you back? Okay, Mike. Nope. Nope, can't hear you. Nope. Oh, he's going to go out and come back in. Okay, well, we'll just hang out here. So I'll leave this up. We have this on screen share. If this is really difficult for everyone to see, I don't know. I'm not looking at it on my phone to see how small these are. But I think what we can agree on is there is a lot of ways to leverage, but the majority of the most popular vehicles, it's not. Okay, here you go. All right. Yep, we can hear you now.
All right.
Welcome back.
How about now?
Yep, you're good.
Can
Can
you
you
hear
not
me
hear
okay?
me?
I cannot hear you. Love it.
Oh my
Love it, love it.
gosh. All right. Okay, well, we have some comments here that
Okay.
I don't know.
There we go.
Okay. All right, we have some questions and some comments, but if you wanted to finish up about self-directed IRAs real quick, then we can.
Yep. Well, actually, I was moving over to the cash value side of things, and then we'll jump into an example. So here's what I'll do. I'll finish up the cash value side of things, and before I jump into an example, we can get some of the questions out of the way. Because here's what I'm going to do. All I wanted to do is just highlight how these different vehicles, based off the criteria that I set, how these different vehicles measure up to, should I use them or should I not? And what we're headed into is we're headed into the cash value life insurance side. So we've looked at lines of credit, home equity lines of credit. We've looked at, well, we didn't look at credit cards and PLOCs and BLOCs, but we know how those function. We looked at company retirement accounts or self-directed IRAs and 401ks. Now what I want to do is jump into how cash value life insurance match up against this same criteria and then get into an example. But like I said, before I get into the example, we can address some questions. Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. So we can go back to the Blackboard.
Oh, okay. All right. Here we go. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, go ahead.
Did you want to do questions, or you're gonna?
No, let me go through this cash value, and then we can do questions right after that.
All right, okay. I missed that part. My bad.
No problem. So I want to just slide down here and just take one moment again and just highlight this piece. The cash value life insurance side of things, meaning using the same criteria. Is it leverageable? Is it leverageable? Do you have to qualify? And again, the assumption in this process is you already have the product. You already have the whole life. You already have the IUL. You already have the properly structured IUL with leverage. Or maybe you have a fixed indexed annuity. Or what about a stock portfolio? Because most people don't realize stock portfolios can be leveraged as well. That's how Warren Buffett does it. But I digress. My point is, how do these vehicles match up against the same criteria? So in most cases, when you have a properly structured cash value life insurance based product, it is absolutely leverageable. So again, if you just look at this side of the table, obviously everything on this side of the table looks pretty good. Like there's really no issues here. Meaning, do you have to qualify? No, you don't. Is the interest good? I'm going to say it depends. It depends on how it's structured. It depends on where you got it from. It depends on a lot of different factors. But in most cases, it's pretty good. The payback, is the payback required? Is someone going to be knocking at your door going, hey, you better pay back this money that you leverage? The answer is no. You control that payback period. You control how it's paid back, when it's paid back, and if it's paid back. Now, if we are talking through the strategy of infinite banking, should you pay it back? Well, infinite banking says you absolutely should. But my point is, are you required? Whose responsibility is it to take that action? You have control over that. And the time frame, how long it takes doesn't matter. It's up to you. And then the other piece is, do I need permission to leverage my money? Now, there may be a process to leverage the money inside of a cash value life insurance policy, meaning you might have to fill out a form. But do I need someone's permission? Does someone have to allow me to leverage my money? And that is the answer to that question is no. You have full control over your ability to access it. And then the impact on your credit and multi-use, single use, and impact on your credit report or credit score. The answer is it doesn't impact any of that. You can use this money for whatever you want. And as you pay it back, if you pay it back, you have more to use again. So this is one of those vehicles that you can rinse and repeat as much as you would like, and there's no impact to your credit or your credit profile or your credit score. So again, it makes it pretty dang positive. So just kind of zooming back out real quick, putting this back like it was. Moral of the story is when you look at all of these pieces to the puzzle, the question is, I don't know why I can't line that up. There it is. The question is, of the full list, which ones would make sense for you to leverage? Clearly, this section is much better than this section, and this section is okay. So my point is, when you're trying to identify where your leverage is located, based off this criteria, it's pretty easy to see where you should be focusing your attention. So again, as I mentioned, I just wanted to highlight what that looks like, highlight the criteria that I use. I am looking for you to share with me what I'm missing. And from here, I'll jump into an example to show you how these pieces go together. But before I do that, sweetheart, if there's any questions, let's address them.
Okay. Well, one, I just want to say that we were asked, can we put the link to the worksheet? They can't see that. So,
I know they can't.
Yeah.
And again, the goal is not for you to notice what's in here. It is just simply red, green, yellow.
No, my goal was for you to read it, y'all. Okay, just gonna throw that out there. So I put the link in the chat and in the Facebook group. So if you want to go and read it, because people are like, "What am I reading? What's the green mean?" Babe, they want to read. They want to read it. So we put the link in there so you can. But the point was, I get your point. It's not important what it says. It's leverageable
It's
where your
where's
access
your
is.
leverage, and is that leverageable vehicle good, bad, or not? That's all. Is it good? Is it bad? Do you have control based off the leverageable vehicle that you have? And what vehicles am I missing? Again, I want to stress that as well. So
Yeah.
okay, I hear you on the link. We'll address that. Any other questions, sweetheart?
Yeah, well, first of all, Ty says she appreciates how you broke it all down in the color coding, and so do I. That was well done. So kudos to you on that. Roger Lewis says, is the initial credit check your bank makes to see if you qualify a soft credit pull or hard? I'm learning that a hard pull credit check will lower your credit score.
And the sad part about that is it depends. I'll give you a few examples. The one of the second position home equity lines of credit that we use is an Avon card, Avon, Aven. And they did a soft pull to see if I qualify. If I qualified and I agreed with the terms and conditions of the product itself, then the hard pull came to solidify everything, right?
Yeah.
But if I would have said, hey, I don't want anything to do with any of this product, they would have said, okay, the soft pull said I qualified. I turned it down and it would have never been seen. It would have never registered on my credit. So it kind of depends. Great question.
Yeah. Um, okay, let me go back. I'm trying to find them and then also pull them up. Okay, next question. Roger says, if you decide not to pay the borrowed amount back to your cash value insurance policy, if it doesn't impact my profile or credit score, what exactly is the impact and how potentially bad is that impact? That's a great question.
Yeah. And that's where, and again, I'm not usually I get into the conversation of whole life versus IUL, right? Usually that's the dialogue we have on this channel. And I'm not. But here's the truth about that. Yes, you can leverage it. Yes, you have control. Yes, you get to determine that payback period. But what is happening inside of your cash value life insurance product when you leverage it? Again, that's not on this list, but it's a great question that you have. Meaning, let's compare. If I borrow against my whole life policy, what does it look like inside of my whole life policy? Well, it depends on who you got it from. Depends on how it was created. Depends on how it was structured. Because if it was structured, I'll call it efficiently, the best case scenario would be you're making about 4% inside the policy. It costs you about 6% to leverage the money in the policy. Again, let me restate. You're making about 4%, meaning the dividend growth inside your whole life policy is about 4% compounded. When you go to leverage, use that money, it costs you 6% to use it, which means when you borrowed that dollar amount at 6%, now your policy is growing at negative 2%. So your policy is on life support. But when you use that dollar that you just borrowed at 6% and go do great and wonderful things, as long as you pay it back, you can put your policy back whole. But if you don't, what's happening inside your policy? You're losing negative 2%, and that negative 2% is compounding inside your policy. It can eat away at your cash value. It will impact your ability to be able to leverage money again. Versus you having a properly structured cash value life insurance product, and I'm going to use an IUL with leverage. What's happening inside the policy? Well, if it's properly designed, properly structured, on average, the growth inside of it will look like somewhere between 7 to 10%. Well, how much would it cost for you to leverage your money? In a lot of cases, in most cases, it's somewhere around 5%. So I'm making 7%. It costs me 5 to leverage it, which means when I leverage the money inside the product, I'm making a positive 2% inside the policy. So if I choose not to pay it back, is my cash value being negatively impacted with the money that I'm using outside of it? Mathematically, no, because you're making a positive 2% spread inside of the policy, even on the leveraged money. Now, should I pay it back? Absolutely, you should. And I think it's more of a when should you pay it back or when should you leverage the policy? We can get into that conversation later. But moral of the story is depending on the product you have, it should determine um, um, whether you should or shouldn't pay back the leverage dollar amount in it. If we are just talking about infinite banking, though, the infinite banking strategy states it is a requirement that you pay back the money that you borrowed over a certain period of time. So that's that. But here's the piece that I love about this process: you have control over what that looks like. You get to determine whether you do, whether you don't, when you do, when you don't. Okay, a lot of words, sweetheart. My bad.
Yeah, and really that could segue into a whole conversation
Whole
about
nother ride.
structure. And leverage is what people normally get caught up on with the infinite banking concept, and is that's where the stars come out of your eyes, right? That's where the wow, I can see the potential here is the leverage. However, most people, if you ask them, well, what do you plan? What would you leverage it to do? They don't know.
Right? They don't know.
They might say, oh, I might leverage it to buy real estate. How are you going to decide if or qualify it for as a proper investment to be able to take those funds out? Because if you're investing in real estate, if you're taking this chunk out that is going to then be locked up somewhere, how are you going to pay it back?
That's the dilemma.
Right. That's the long math that we do over here is how long does it take? Sometimes you look at the surface math and you go, well, that doesn't make sense. When you play it all the way through, you go, wow, I had no idea. I would have stopped there and missed this entire opportunity. But most of the times with these infinite banking surface conversations around just how attractive the leverage is, because they're not designed for income, because they're not designed to produce cash value that you can use and keep using and not have to pay back. Most of these policies, we're talking about structure more than we're talking about a vehicle. Different live stream. We've had many of those. But the leverage is powerful. I think most people can agree with that, right? Most people watching, if you're watching, it's because you agree. You understand the power of leverage. So not just the product, but also how it's structured, because that could be that whole conversation can be thrown at a self-directed IRA too. Just throwing that out there. I'll keep that rest of that to myself. Okay.
Well, and let's look at it in practice, because I think this is a pretty good segue. You're absolutely right. Structure and all of those things matter. Now let's look at it in practice. What would happen if there's an objective that you're trying to hit? Which one of these vehicles should be used? But before I do that, any other questions you want to hit before?
Yeah. We have one from Ann. Ann.
Hey, Ann.
Yeah. Ann squared. Did you guys get that? Okay. Cash value life insurance, time frame before first leverage access. It's a great question. Because I'm gonna be quiet.
Well, and here's the thing. I hate it when I give this answer, but it's the fact. It's the actual answer, and it is depends. What's the goal? Depending on the goal, you can determine how much is leverageable, because there are whole life policies that you can structure as 90-10, meaning in 45 days, you have 90% of the cash value available to you to be able to leverage and use and go do things. Awesome. But what's the goal? If the goal is to generate income and use this as a vehicle that you're going to potentially be able to retire and have supplemental income, that 90-10 is going to destroy any capability of you doing that. Why? Because that 90-10 is going to give you a fair amount of cash value, but the growth inside of your policy will be horrible. Versus a properly structured policy that is designed for income, you may only have 40% in cash value available in 45 days. But in 2 years, maybe 3, you have well over 100% of leverageable access to your cash value. So it all depends on the goal, because depending on that goal will determine how this thing should be structured, what type of cash value life insurance product you should be using to be able to accomplish that goal.
Okay, we have some really good questions that have come in. So Gabo, welcome, by the way. We haven't seen your name before. Welcome to our stream.
Hello.
And do you suggest not to leverage your cash value IUL on down years, not cannibalize your cash value?
Seems like a softball question. I think here's the cool part about cash value life insurance policies that are structured right in general. So not even just an IUL. If they're structured right, what you are provided is you're provided, I'll call it discernment, meaning you are in a position to where you have leverage and you get to be very stingy with how you use that leverage. And so you're right. If we're in a downturn, you know that's going to negatively impact your policy. Does that mean you can't leverage it? That is not what that means. But you should use some discernment to say, maybe I should be very much intentional on how I use it, because maybe there's this opportunity that's going to bring you a guaranteed 15%. Well, even in a negative down year, if I'm going to leverage my policy, I'm going to go get that negative 15% because that growth will outperform that negative performance, or it's not even negative, it's a zero performance. It's not negative
Right,
performance,
right.
it's zero, meaning you just don't make money that year. So if I'm going to make a guaranteed 15%, hell yeah, I'm going to go take advantage of that, knowing internally inside my policy, the performance isn't as great as it normally would be in a good market year. But who cares? Because the arbitrage, the spread that I'm going to make will compensate. So again, I go back to that word discernment, meaning if you're properly structured and you understand how these vehicles work, you get to decide. Even though whether the market is good or bad doesn't even matter. Whether we're in an election year or not an election year doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter what the inflation is, because I've got a vehicle that's structured right, and therefore I have the ability to decide how I am going to function with this vehicle, not the society activities are going to determine or dictate whether or not I should or not. Did I answer that
Man,
question? But
like
did I
we
answer
should,
it though?
yeah, we should
Okay.
all want that. No, you're going to actually answer this in the example that you're about to show. And squared, that's your new nickname. We're doing it until everybody gets that joke. It's average percentage or dollar cost for access to leverage. We're answering that as well. So let's just get into, you have it in there. You have it in there.
Okay, I just want to make sure I had to reread the sentence because my mind went somewhere else. Okay, I
Yeah.
got it.
So we're going to cover that right now.
Okay, going back to the board.
Yep, here we go. We've been at the board.
I know. Gotta make me smaller. All right. Okay. So where am I at? So what we wanted to do was go through an example. And this is a real world example with a lot of hypotheticals because we're not there yet. But this is the example that was in my head at midnight on Saturday night. And so we decided to kind of work through it. And the objective of this example is to identify, based off the criteria that I've shared so far, what makes sense, like what vehicle makes sense to leverage and use to be able to accomplish the goal. So what's the goal in this example? The goal in this example is to purchase a rental property. That's the goal. And so here's the situation. We've got a property. I'll make it bigger. We've got a property. There we go. We've got a property that with a purchase price of $240,000. The property appraised at $265,000. So already walking in with equity. The current mortgage balance is $120,000, meaning the current seller has a mortgage balance of $120,000 on a home that he's selling for $240,000. And the current mortgage payment is $1,230 a month. He's got an interest rate of 4%, and he still has 20 years left on this property. So those list of vehicles that we shared, the first position, second position, business lines of credit, personal lines of credit, retirement accounts, blah, blah, blah. These are all accessible vehicles today. So based off this goal, meaning the goal is to purchase this property, what could we do? Well, it would be easy to simply purchase the home for $240,000, get us a 30-year mortgage on this home for $240,000. And if you do the math, that home for $240,000 over a 30-year period would give us a mortgage payment of about $1,605. The interest rates, even though interest rates are dropping, interest rate right now, that I saw, and this is as of yesterday, it would put us at about 7%. And these are fictitious. Down payment, I put down about 5%. Closing costs, all I did was I calculated about 6%. I love my realtors, but I'm not a fan of involving realtors where they don't need to be involved. And so my point is 6%, 3% on each side is about 14.4. So in total, I'm saying the closing costs in total would be about 25 grand. So I'm purchasing a home for about 240,000. I'd have a monthly mortgage payment of about 1,600, and I would be putting down about 25 grand. With all of those different lines of credit, couldn't we put $25,000 down in our sleep and velocity banking it our way to oblivion? Absolutely, we could. But maybe there's a better way. Remember, I go back to what's the goal? This home is being sold for a reason. What's the goal? Maybe there's an opportunity to use some of our leverage and accomplish a goal. What's the goal? Well, in this case, the seller, he's looking for 120,000 out of this property. That's what he's looking for. Again, the home is worth 240. I'm sorry, it's worth 265. He's selling it for 240. The mortgage left on it is 120. So he's looking to make 120 out of the deal. What if we assume the mortgage? So instead of getting another mortgage at a 7% interest rate or whatever that was, what if we assume his mortgage? Which means we're going to assume this $120,000 balance and pick up this monthly payment of $1,230. Why? I want to accomplish his goal. I want to use the leverage that we have to be able to help him, assist create a win-win. How is this a win-win? Well, I'm picking up a property that is worth 265,000 with a balance of 120. What could I do with that difference? There's first position, there's second position, home equity line of credit opportunities all throughout. In addition, he wants 120,000. Can I use some of my leverage capability to be able to accomplish this goal? And to this point, what are the closing costs during this process? Very minimal, meaning whatever it's going to cost for me to assume the loan is what I have to pay. But there's no need for realtors if I don't want one. Yeah, we've got to get an appraisal. Like there's some simple things that have to be accounted for, but it's definitely not 25 grand worth of costs. So I also am spending less out of pocket going to somewhere other than the goal that's going to be hit, and that is getting the seller what he wants. So is there an opportunity to leverage or use some of the vehicles that we have to be able to accomplish this goal is the question. So that's the example that I want to walk through. Go ahead, sweetheart.
I'm just going to say this is like the elopement. This is like eloping for real estate. That's what it is. No wedding to plan, no expensive, just for the day. You're just getting to the point and you're getting all the benefit and you get to save the money so you can invest it.
We're cutting out a whole lot of people.
That's right.
Who are expecting to make a whole lot of money on this project.
That's right. Yep. Too bad for them.
Right. So the question though is, which is the best to leverage? Like if we're going to assume this loan, we talked about all of these different vehicles, which would be the best? And so again, if I'm looking at this, I know you can't read it, not expecting you to, but if you're looking at this visual, where on this visual would be the best vehicles to use? Can we just agree that it's over here? That's all. Now, there may be some opportunities here, but if we're just looking at this holistically, it would be best to leverage these vehicles. Why? We've already walked through it because of control. I have more control over how these vehicles can be leveraged and used versus these or versus this. Okay, but now let's dig into some details though. Let's go a little bit closer. If we're going to identify just the ones that look good, we're talking about the first position HELOC, the second position HELOC, the business line of credit I kept in here, the self-directed 401k, and the properly structured cash value life products. Those were the ones that said, hey, it may make a little bit more sense to use these vehicles. Again, I'm not going to dig into the whys or any of that. I'm just saying visually, the green says these vehicles would be better. So let's look at these a little bit closer. So if I'm going to take out these other items and just leave the ones that we discussed, what's in them? What's the math? What's the math inside of these products? I can move myself over a little bit if you want to make me bigger. What's the math inside these products? Well, inside of the whole life policy, there's about 25,000 that's capable of being leveraged. And again, I'm just making up numbers, so don't kill me. But inside this whole life policy, there's about 25 grand. Inside of the properly structured IUL with leverage, there's about 75 grand. Self-directed 401k, there's a limit to what you can leverage inside a self-directed 401k. You can leverage 50% of what's in it up to 50,000. So I have the capability of leveraging the max. I've got a business line of credit. Why a business line? Why would I use a business line of credit? Well, what's the impact to your personal credit if you're using a business line of credit? How about none? What's the impact to your credit profile if you're using a business line of credit? How about none? Now, you can't control the interest rate, but you do control how it's paid back, how long it takes to pay it back, and whether you pay it back. Now, business lines of credit usually come with a higher interest rate. But my point is, it's a vehicle that's worth looking at. There's about 50,000 of room there. And then I've got the second position HELOC. And again, I'm giving you insight into how I think. I'm also giving you insight into some of the products that we have. We've got an Avon card with a credit limit of about 100K. And then we've got the first position home equity line of credit in place of our mortgage. Now, there's more room here, but my point is, if I wanted to, couldn't we just take $120,000 out of the first position HELOC, pay the gentleman what he wants, and use velocity banking to pay back the 120? Like, that's a no-brainer, right? But my point is, we've got other vehicles available to us. Which one would be better to use to be able to accomplish this goal? Again, based off this visual, which ones make more sense? Well, again, if I focus in this area, notice I have more control, more flexibility, more capability than I do with these. So, based off that criteria, well, I'll call it, add a little bit more though. Let me add a little bit more spice. Let's be a little bit more specific. If these are the vehicles we're looking at, not just what are the values, if I leverage money from these vehicles, what is the interest rate? How much does that dollar cost me? And I think that was what the question was earlier, and that's what you were saying we were going to cover, sweetheart. So I get it now.
Yep.
So if I'm going to leverage the money in these vehicles, does it look like mathematically? So if I'm talking about that whole life policy, how much does it cost for me to leverage the dollar amount in the whole life policy? Well, specifically in mine, it's about 6%. If I'm going to leverage the IUL, the leveraged IUL, then again, these words matter. We can dig into what I mean when I say this another time. But my point is, it's going to cost me about 5%. That self-directed 401k, it's going to cost me about 3%. Notice the self-directed 401k has the lowest interest rate. Guess who set that interest rate? I did. Not the bank, not Fidelity, not an employer. This self-directed 401k, I have full control over what this interest rate is and how this dollar amount is paid back. So I said 3%. Do I have the right in this, I'll call it arena, do I have the right to set this interest rate at 3%? Yes, I do. Why? Because if I went for a loan at a bank based off my credit score, my credit profile, I'm confident I can achieve an interest rate of that magnitude, of that, I guess, lesser amount. So I have no problem charging myself this because I can justify it.
But you could also charge yourself more because it's interest that you're paying back to yourself. Therefore, it's interest that you're earning because it's a self-directed account. You can't though say, okay, I'm going to charge myself 50%.
Right.
Can you explain why?
Yes. So she's absolutely correct. This self-directed 401k, I set it at 3%, but could I have set it at 12? Well, let me give you a scenario where that would make sense. Well, if my credit wasn't as good as it is, and I went to a bank to get a line of credit of this magnitude, what would they charge me? If I went to a car dealership to get a car and I had to get that car loan, what would be the interest rate on that car loan? If it's going to be somewhere around that 12, 13, 22, 25%, could I charge myself 12, 13, 22, 25%? Yes. Because my justification is if I was to go through the normal process of things to be able to leverage from a normal banking institution, that's what they would charge me. So therefore, I'm just charging myself what I would normally be charged if I was going through the traditional means. So you're spot on with that, sweetheart. Business lines of credit. I just got this business line of credit from Bank of America, and it's actually a really decent interest rate, 7%. Pretty awesome. And then we've got the lines of credit, first position and second position. And not to peel off a band-aid and open this wound, but I talk about it all the time. I had the opportunity on my first position HELOC to lock in my interest rate. I did. And I could have locked in my interest rate on my first position home equity line of credit at somewhere around 2% if I wanted to. And I haven't because I don't look at it that way. I focus on leverage, growth, and creating income, not avoidance. And so I missed the opportunity. And to this date, I still haven't locked in this interest rate, even though I could. Well, of the story is, as of today, it's about 6%. So these are the values as well as the interest rates associated with using these vehicles. So based off that, which one should I use? And I'm not expecting you to know the answer. I go back to this visual. Still, now that you know the interest rate, now that you know the amount in them, which ones make the most sense to use? I am still here. That self-directed 401k, that whole life policy, and that IUL with leverage, to me, still makes the most sense based off just simply the color code. Doesn't matter what's in the box. The data says it makes more sense for me to leverage these. Why? Because I have more control. All right. So let's dig into it. Let's take a look at an example. Make this big enough. There we go. So if I'm going to leverage the whole life policy, and how much is in the whole life policy? So in total, I've got about $150,000. I'm sorry, let me bring that down some. I've got about $150,000 available to leverage between these three vehicles. Between the whole life, the IUL, and the self-directed 401k, I've got $150,000 of leverage. And again, this $150,000 of leverage, I have full control over. I don't have to ask permission. And in most cases, or in one of these cases, I even get to set the interest rate. So I have full control over what's available here. And so I'm going to take of that 150, I'm going to give 120 to the seller. So the seller's done. When I pay that $120,000, I now own that home. The seller has gotten what he's looked for or gotten what he's wanted. Now that's 120,000 minus inspection and whatever comes out of the inspection. You know, if I got to replace the roof or whatever it is I got to do, it might be a little bit less than 120, but the bottom line is I budgeted for it. And once I do that, I now own the home. Well, the first thing I'm going to do with that home that I now have a mortgage on at $1,230 a month, the first thing I'm going to do is remove that escrow account. Why? They have been paying the taxes out of the escrow account associated with that $1,230 a month. So the first thing I'm going to do is remove that escrow. And what I know is that escrow is about $230. So the $1,230 he's been paying in monthly payments every year, 230 of that is a part of the taxes piece. So I'm going to eliminate that escrow account. Why? I want to pay the taxes. And this might be a little bit confusing, but why would I remove that $230 and now become responsible for it? Well, when you learn leverage, when you understand how leverage is used, you start to identify where you are being leveraged. What is an extra escrow account? Well, what happens is a portion of your mortgage payment is going towards paying your taxes. What does the bank do with that dollar amount that that extra dollar amount in your mortgage? What do they do with it? They're compounding that escrow account. They're making money off that escrow account. And then in October or April or whatever the time period is when the taxes are paid, they pay the taxes, but that growth on that money during that period, they keep. You never see it. So why won't I do that? So I am going to take that $230 a month, add it to my cash flow. I'm going to compound that $230. And then when my taxes are due, I'm going to pay the taxes flat, but I'm going to keep the growth on that $230. I'm going to do what the bank is doing because I'm getting self-directed, right? So take that $230, remove it. What's left? Well, when I take the $230 out of that mortgage payment, I now have a mortgage of $120. $120. I now have a mortgage of $1,000 a month. Where 120 come from? So again, I take the 230 out of the 1230. I'm left with $1,000 mortgage payment every month. You guys know I'm petty. Well, I had 150,000 of leverage. I gave the seller 120. I've got 30 left over. What am I going to do with this 30K after I paid the seller 120? Well, I'm going to take this 30K and dump it right into the mortgage. What do I mean? I'm going to dump $30,000 onto the principal of 120,000. When I take $30,000 and dump it onto the principal of 130,000, what is that going to? 120,000. Rewind. When I take this 30,000 and dump it onto the mortgage balance of 120,000, what happens? Well, 120,000 minus the 30,000 I just dumped onto the principal, the new balance is now 90,000. What am I going to do with that new mortgage balance of $90,000? We're going to recast. We're going to recast this mortgage at $90,000 over the same 20-year period, which is going to do what? Now my mortgage payment is no longer even $1,000 a month. My mortgage payment is now $545 over the next 20 years after I do that. So, just to recap this scenario, I've taken 150,000 of leverage, used 120 of it, paid off the seller. I've deconstructed my mortgage payment, removed the escrow account. My mortgage of $1,000, I am now going to recast my mortgage by dumping the remaining 30K into this mortgage. And when I do that, I'm going to recast that mortgage. And so the ending mortgage payment ends up being $545 a month when I start down this path. But I'm not done yet. I now have a property that I own, but there's no one in it. I am now going to rent that property. Again, the mortgage payment on the property is $545. Rent for properties in the area is $1,750 on the low end. I'm going to rent this property for $1,600. Why? Because I can. Not for any other reason, because I control this process. I don't need to charge a high rent in order to be able to survive or support or be able to pay debt. I don't need to do any of that because I have control that I wouldn't normally have. Because notice, remember what I could have done? I could have gotten a $240,000 mortgage and the mortgage payment would have been $1,709, I believe, $1,709 a month. So it would have forced me to turn this rental property into more of a on the higher end or the middle of what the average rent payment should be. But now I don't have to do that because I control this process. So I'm going to put a renter in this property at $1,600 a month. $1,600 minus the $545 mortgage payment leaves me cash flow of $1,055 a month in cash flow. But remember, I leveraged money to do this. What did I leverage? I leveraged a self-directed 401k, an IUL, and a whole life policy. What do we know about these vehicles as it relates to leveraging them? These two, am I required to pay them back? No. So I have control over the timing and the payback period. But this one, am I required to pay it back? Well, with a 401k, you have a 5-year payback period. You set the terms. I can set the interest rate, which I did. But as far as the payback period, I am required to do that. So I have to do the math on what is it costing me to leverage this $50,000? How much does it cost to use this $50,000 in this process? Well, it's simple math. $50,000 times 3% is $1,500. $1,500 plus 50,000 is now 51,500. 51,500 divided by 60 months, which is 5 years, is a dollar amount. Oh, it's already here. What is that dollar amount? $855 a month, meaning When I borrowed this $50,000, I now owe myself, not a bank, not Fidelity, not my previous employer. I owe myself $850 a month. So when we're looking at this 1055 that I have coming in cash flow, I still have to pay back this loan. And I'm not going to pay it back. I'm going to allow this renter paying this rent to pay this $855. So when I do that, when the rent is now paying this 855, that 855 comes out of the 1055 that's left over from the cash flow. Once the mortgage is paid, I have $200 left over in actual cash flow. Not much, but notice how much skin in the game is there from my part? How much headache did I have to go through in qualifying? How many hoops did I have to jump over? How many hurdles did I have to jump through to be able to accomplish any of this? How about none? I just went to my checking account and moved money around.
Wait,
So
wait, before you move on, stay right there.
Okay.
Before you move on, if you were to do this same exact process, but let's say you had a multi-generational home. Let's say you were moving your parents in, you've seen it all over TikTok and Instagram and everywhere else, that there are new programs in place for people to avoid having to go into some type of assisted living facility, right? So if you want them to stay home with you and you want to do that, now you have a multi-generational home. Maybe you have to buy a new house in order to do that, right? That would still be a primary residence. See where I'm going with this?
I do.
So if you do this, so now it's almost like it's legally double dipping. Major beneficial in this particular case. This is really a fast track to the family bank, building a family bank, right? If you do that, how long do you have to pay it back?
5 years.
Primary residence.
Oh, 15 years. Sorry.
Right. So now your cash flow just went up because the amount that your payment per month would
It's less.
That's right. And right. And so if the interest that you're paying back to yourself, because these are borrowed funds from you, now let's take it another level. Imagine, because your machine is going to be different than anyone else's machine. Your opportunities, your life, your family, the dynamics within what assets you have or could be taking advantage of are going to be different than the examples that we go over. So that's why I'm throwing this in here, because a lot of people are about to enter into this position or are currently in this position, right? If you were to take advantage of this and you're married, now you can commingle funds. What does that mean, Donnell?
That means that this $50,000 that I was able to borrow is now multiplied by 2. Now I get to borrow $100,000. So maybe I don't need to use that. I can now use the $100,000 that I'm able to borrow out of my 401k. Bottom line is I'm able to leverage more.
And in addition, so now your cash flow just went up, which means your taxable income just went up. But the cool part about that is if you are married and you can commingle funds, now you can also take advantage of the reducing your taxable income times 2 as well. So that number gets bigger. Yeah, so all of that income, all of the savings, all of the investment, all of the leverage just gets bigger. And this is why it's so important to understand where your leverage is and how to use it. Because when you're faced in a situation like this and you're thinking to yourself, well, maybe we'll get a HELOC, right? Maybe we'll have to sell our house and then buy something else. You could actually not sell your house and still be able to take advantage of this because it still qualifies as a primary residence, right? These are different rules, and this is why the wealthy has been playing at a different level, because they understand how to leverage these factors inside of these vehicles. We'll call them building the machines, right? Inside of their machines, they understand where they can pivot and how flexible they are or are not.
And what's so powerful in what it is you're saying, like this visual, as small as it is, this is probably the most important visual on this screen. Because what this implies is all of these pieces work together. And regardless of what the pieces are, they all talk and they all help this machine. And again, it is a machine. It's not just a product. It's not just a home equity line of credit. It's not just a whole life policy. It's not just an index universal life insurance policy with leverage. All of these pieces go together to build a machine, and it's this machine that will allow you to put yourself in a position to where you get to dictate what the future looks like. It's so impactful.
Yeah. And this is really the folks who are out there having to really focus on cost avoidance because we don't have the money for this lifestyle. We're trying to safeguard against our future, so we're trying to save as much as we can. Or you're put in a position where you're thinking to yourself, like, I'm trying to qualify for these opportunities in the traditional way, which is making the cost of these opportunities significantly higher than they need to be. So therefore, I have to pass that on to somebody else, like you were talking about with the rent. I have to now charge $1,800 or $1,850 or $1,900, or somehow I have to get in here a cushion even so that I can go in there and fix things, or I don't have the money to hire a manager, right? So I have to manage this myself. And now I'm realizing that this is more work than I signed up for. Understanding all of these things means that it doesn't matter what life is throwing at you. You understand where you have control. This is significant. This is what helps you
control.
Right. This is what helps you sleep at night. This is what helps you feel more stable in any type of situation, because you know that there's no one who can come around the corner and just rip your power from you, rip your control from you, and get you off kelter. Yeah. You have stability in a different way because you have leverage. So that part alone is worth tuning in to understand. How do I use these vehicles? What are they? If I need to go get more, being able to qualify for more is why that list, the color-coded list, matters so much, is so that you can qualify for more. Because some of these vehicles you do have to be in a position to qualify for. Some of them you don't. Some of them your asset class has to be in a position to qualify for. And then as you start to level up, you have to also be your investor type, your investor profile has to be able to qualify for. So it's not just credit. It's not just how much is in your savings. And some of those things are even changing too. Like we just talked to somebody who is the guy who helped us get our house. He's now in the position of leading a team for first position HELOCs. And as we were talking to him, the first thing I asked him was, can you qualify with a retirement account? Can retirement funds help you qualify? And if so, what are the terms? We were going down that path so that you don't have to take your money out of your machine and leave it sitting to collect dust just to be able to qualify, because these banks are being so stubborn. They're starting to shift, and that is a huge sign. Right. Huge sign, especially for velocity bankers. Yeah.
Spot on. So we're almost done here, by the way. So once the rent has kicked in and I am making that $200 in cash flow, and the rent is paying for the line of credit that I got from my self-directed 401k, what do I do from there? Well, it's all about rinsing and repeating. But don't forget, I've got a couple of items I still have to pay back. I've got a whole life policy and an index universal life policy that I leveraged that I still have to pay back. Here's the cool part about that. I set the terms. The cool part about that is I don't have to ask permission from anyone to do anything. I get to decide when and how this is paid back. So what am I going to do in this process? I'm going to do velocity banking. I'm going to use, let's go, oh, it's right here. It's already here. I'm going to use this, what was it? First position HELOC with 120K of room, or this second position HELOC with 100K in room, and I am going to chunk away at this mortgage. When I say I'm petty, I'm petty. What am I going to do? I'm going to move that. So right now I've gone from 120K mortgage to 90K. Well, I'm going to move that all the way down to probably somewhere around 17K. Why? I'm going to get that mortgage down to a point where that mortgage payment is about $100 a month. And I'm going to allow that $1,600 a month that's coming in rent to pay for everything that I want done around that product, around that vehicle wrap, done around that home. So I'm going to use it to build a line of credit to eventually probably get another first position home equity line of credit or a second position home equity line of credit on this rental property, not because I need it, just because I can. Why? Because this is now becoming a leverageable asset. And it's just going to rinse and repeat to potentially maybe go pick up another property and do this all again once I make myself whole inside of my the lines of credit that I've used. So I'll use Velocity Banking and use these products to pay back the whole life and the IUL that I've used. So I'm going to use my line of credit to pay back these vehicles. Again, just simply using Velocity Banking, meaning I'm putting all of my income in it, paying bills from it. It's the process that we've talked about hundreds of thousands of times on this channel. So if you don't understand Velocity Banking, let's have a discussion. But the bottom line is I'm going to use Velocity Banking to pay back everything. So the moral of the story is this is about flexibility. It's about us having the choice to decide how we want to take action. And at the end of the day, this is all about control. It's putting us in a position to where we can do what we want, when we want, how we want, without having to ask permission. And so what we just walked you through was our leverage is located here. These are the vehicles that we use. Throughout today, the example that we've used uses the concept of velocity banking, uses the concept of a line of credit, uses infinite banking because we're leveraging properly structured cash value life insurance policies. And one of those policies is an IUL with leverage. And we also leverage the 401k. This is how our process, our system works together. My question for you is, where's your leverage? What am I missing? Like I was talking to a gentleman yesterday who has a large amount of crypto. Is it possible to leverage your crypto in your machine, in your process to be able to do these same things? Where is your leverage? Where is your opportunity to be able to accomplish the same thing? And are you leveraging them properly? Have you identified which ones make sense compared to others? Are you still using your credit card thinking, hey, based off the channels that I watch as it relates to velocity banking, I'm supposed to be using my credit card to be able to accomplish these goals? Or have you transitioned to, how do I leverage my home? How do I leverage my previous employer plan? Where are those opportunities? And let's also be clear here. There are things that I can assist with, and there are things that I can't. What I can assist with is, if you want to understand how to better do velocity banking so you're using the right tools, get on my calendar. I am not a bank. You cannot get a first position home equity line of credit from me. But as it relates to how a first position home equity line of credit impacts velocity banking, we can talk about that all day. These three vehicles right here come directly here. If you don't understand how to leverage your retirement account to be able to accomplish your goals, let me show you. Because in most cases, the other companies out there focus heavy on IRAs. I focus on identifying your leverage to be able to use, to be able to get and do what it is you want. And then as it relates to the properly structured cash value life insurance products, I don't know too many people who are talking about IULs with leverage. And in most cases, people who sell life insurance only focus on one life insurance product. Notice, well, maybe you don't remember because the list was pretty long. There's also a fixed indexed annuity option in that list, meaning those vehicles are leverageable also, but it all depends on the structure. It all depends on how they are created. Let's discuss. Jump on my calendar. Let's talk about it. So at the end of the day, let me move that over. The objective is get self-directed. And sweetheart, I am done. What questions we got?
All right. Well, that's a wrap for the example. Let's move into the questions. We have we've had a lot more comments of people having like these aha moments or just these confirmations for them going like, yes, this is it right here. We need to see more stuff like this, like the breakdown of how to leverage, how to use, where these tools fit in, and I think just what I'm seeing in the comments is that people really appreciate that. And if you're not in the comments and you appreciate it, let us know so we know what type of content to create, what type of videos or live streams or examples to go over. We want to know what's been helpful for you, or this is what I haven't seen. I haven't seen anybody talk about this, or I would love to see how you talk about this particular thing. Then put it in the comments as well. And we would love to. Okay.
Before you
Here
pull
we
up
go.
one, well,
Let's
let me
just,
also say this. Let me also say this. Um, I do sincerely want to apologize because what I've just shared with you is just simply what's in my head. The criteria that I assess whether or not this leverageable vehicle is good or not is my criteria. You can't Google what I just shared with you. This is what I think makes sense. And so, again, I apologize for like fire hosing what's in my head, but I did it for a purpose. And that is, I really want to know what I'm missing. I really want to know, like, what is it that I am not thinking about? Because based off my criteria, it's very simple: red, yellow, green. And green says there are some leverageable assets that we need to do a better job of leveraging before we use others. But I'd love to hear everyone else's thoughts. Okay, we can jump to the question, sweetheart.
well, there's also like, we don't know. We say it all the time. You don't know
You don't
what
know
you
what
don't
you don't
know.
know.
We don't know what we don't know. We're still in our journey as well. And so there's layers and levels to this, right? We can help you get as far as we've gotten, right? We can show you exactly how we got there. That doesn't mean that it was the most efficient way, because we did that based off of how we learned information, how we learned what we didn't know and added that to the mix. You might be in that phase of your journey, just or in a different stretch of that, different vehicles, different opportunities, different obstacles, right? So all of those is where community is really important. People who are also learning, they may have some experience with whatever it is, circumstances that you have. It's really difficult when you don't have a community of people who are also looking for the win-win. If you're only surrounded by people who are looking to profit from you, it is highly likely that there's going to be some gatekeeping on information if they don't benefit. And that's what we found everywhere we went. Not just were we not presented with options, but we were also discouraged from using options that were truly the best for us, simply because, well, I'm not going to make that look good because I don't benefit. I have nothing to gain off of that from you. All we could do is say, we're going to go out here now that we have reached this milestone for us, right? Like, we had a milestone that we wanted to reach. And now that we've reached that, now we can go grab people, each one teach one. You go grab somebody and you pull them in. And we start to build a community of people who are really, truly looking for the win-win. This isn't just debt reduction. This isn't about, becoming just debt free. Like, you could be debt free and broke at the same time. This is not about real estate and having the largest amount of doors, and we're counting doors and we're counting how much your net worth is. That is not what this is. We are talking about financial stability. We are talking about financial flexibility. We are talking about building generational wealth. We're talking about being in a position where nobody can take your power from you. Nobody can take your control from you in your life and what it is that you can do. We're talking about not having to ask permission from anyone in order to access your assets, your leverage, your money, the time and the time that we spend to invest in all of this. And it is heartbreaking to watch people who have spent 20, 30 years putting money, the buy two, get one. Remember we were talking about that? Right. You buy two houses, but you only get to live in one by the time you've paid all the interest. And at the end of it all, they don't even get to keep that house. They have to sell it. Or they're slowly selling it, like a slow drip, selling it back to, that's like the new thing, right? The HEA, or the, what's the other one called?
HELOAN?
No, there's another name for it. I can't think of it now, but it's the home equity agreements is what is essentially what they are. Reverse mortgage. That's what I was looking for. And none of these are true solutions. These are just ways to stretch out the money that you currently have. So think of it like this. You have a pantry full of food and they're teaching you how to maybe stretch it out a little longer, use a little less per meal, right? And you can feed more people for a little bit more time if you just follow our steps. Or you can learn how to garden, you can learn how to grow your own food, and you can not be dependent on somebody else's store, what prices they set, and things like that. And in addition to that, you really don't have to learn how to garden. You can plant one that will grow itself, essentially.
Leverage.
Yeah, it's leverage, right? And so what we're not talking about, that this is complicated, I promise you. There are so many people who were so overwhelmed by the concept of this, and it took something. It was some shift of belief in their lives, or a sincere desire or a mandatory need to learn this information that moved them from this is overwhelming, it's not a vibe, I can't think about it, to yeah, actually I can learn. And it's that one win. You get that first win and then you go, well, maybe I can get 2, maybe I can get 3. And before you know it, you are making moves that maybe even 6 months or a year ago, you would not have had the confidence to even believe that you could make those types of moves. You can do this. Being self-directed is a movement. It's a mindset more than it's just an account or product or about retirement, right? Or investments. Becoming self-directed says that you are shifting the belief that you have to be confined to these boxes or these rules or these financial parents that we have everywhere that get to make decisions. They get to make money on our money and the decisions of how we have access to or can use our money. That's not okay. And the world is just at a different place now. We need to have control and we need to be able to understand where our leverage is, where our control is, so that we are not the ones at the end of the day to blame for not having. You can't go back, but I promise you, not a single banker, not your HR department, not your Uncle Charlie, not your Uncle Johnny, not your favorite neighbor, not your grandpa's financial advisor who had all the answers. None of them are tied to the consequences if you are not financially stable in the end. Nobody. And nobody cares. They will offer you another product. They will offer you a solution at a cost because you can't go back. And it's all set up that way. You have the opportunity right now to learn where your leverage is, learn how to use it, and that's what we're here to do. That's what this channel's about. All right. Well, I don't have that was loud. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't have a mic. I dropped my pen. That was about the best that I could do.
Pin drop.
Oh, this question though. Very good information. I would like to learn more about self-directed 401k. It's pretty simple. Get on my calendar. Go to selfdirected.info. You'll see right there in the middle of the page a little calendar icon. Click on the calendar and pick a time. Pretty simple.
You can also go to self-directed sdretirementplans.com. There's about 20, the first page of Google for self-directed 401ks, by the way. This is a 20-year-old company. We've got the 20 years there of blogs and different types of content, FAQ, all about self-directed 401ks and IRAs. There's a lot of it's a vault of information there. So you can also go there and access the calendar there too. And we have all of our links to all of our things on selfdirected.info/live. You can get all of the information there. It's easier to remember, selfdirected.info. You can just go there too and access to the calendar there as well. Okay, I'm trying to find...
I just starred one while you were talking. I can grab that one real quick. Right here, there we go.
Oh, hi, Lewis. Welcome back.
Is there a way to leverage an annuity outside of surrendering it? And surrender just says, hey, there's a large fee that you would end up paying if you try to leverage it. So outside of that. And this is the piece, man. And again, as I move down this journey of life insurance, I'm being hit with all of these things that we just didn't know. And so, can you leverage an annuity? The answer is yes, but it all depends on the type that you have. And so, in this case, what I'm referencing, there's only one that I know of that fits this criteria. But I'm going to digress for a moment just to just kind of lay a foundation. From my perspective, there's three types of annuities. There's the annuity where, hey, I am retiring and I need immediate income. So I call them immediate income annuities. There's one type. There's the type where, you know what, I've got this time horizon where I don't need, in my 40s and I'm not going to retire till I'm 60 anyway. So I've got time to allow money to grow inside this annuity. So I'm more focused on the growth of that annuity. So there's the immediate income, there's the growth annuity. And then in the middle there are those who I just need some type of hybrid. I'm not necessarily retiring tomorrow, but I do need income soon. And I'd like to focus on making sure it's growing as large as it can during this period until I am ready to start taking income. Well, if you get the right type of fixed indexed annuity, FIA, fixed indexed annuity, they offer what's called what do you call it? Free withdrawals. There are certain annuities that if you structure them correctly, you can get what's called free withdrawals over a certain period of time. And so in the thought process, there is, hey, while this annuity is growing, I can get these free withdrawals that I'm not not required to pay back, and it will continue to grow over time. And each year, I have access to these free withdrawals. You can take those free withdrawals and go do everything that we've just done in this scenario today, if not more. Meaning it becomes a multi-use vehicle that you can use and do whatever it is you want. So are there annuities that offer? Absolutely there are. But you don't know this if you don't know what questions to ask or who to talk to, because in most cases, people structure annuities about how it benefits the guy selling it. There are some great annuities out there that can benefit you, but if not careful who you're talking to or who you're working with, you can be putting yourself in a position to where all you're doing is making someone a pretty hefty commission. What else we got?
Okay, so Anne squared. Okay, Anne says, so wait 2 years before touching the cash value, maybe?
Depends on the vehicle. If we're talking about an index universal life insurance policy with leverage, the way those are structured is those are traditionally structured as two pay, which means you put in a certain dollar amount in year one. It functions like any IUL. The accessible cash value is about maybe 50% max. So if you need your cash value, it's accessible. In year two, you put in another dollar amount. The available cash value to leverage might be somewhere around 80% maybe. But at year three, if it's structured right, when that leverage kicks in, it brings your policy whole to the point where you have access to 100% of your cash value. So it's not, so wait 2 years. It's, what's the goal? Is the goal growth? Is the goal income? Is the goal, I want to be able to leverage as quickly as possible? So based off the goal should determine when you should or shouldn't leverage, not some specified period, if that makes sense. So
Yeah,
didn't
well,
feel like I answered that question either. But
well, I'm
that's
gonna
the truth.
I'm gonna say words now about this question. And there's a lot of people out here who are talking about you can access your cash value immediately,
Yeah,
and that
30
should
days.
be a huge red flag. Yeah,
Yes.
we've had
Yes.
people who have even said like, "Well, I can't believe you're telling me not to touch my cash value until year whatever the case is, based on the strategy, based on their goal, because these other people over here are saying that I could have access in 30, 60 days, like almost immediately I could access my cash value." That is a recipe for disaster, and you should run. You should run fast. If the concept is to become your own bank, you got to think like a bank. Come on now. If the concept is to have control, then you've got to be in the driver's seat. Or you've got to build a machine that can drive itself, right? But we've even seen that. Waymo, y'all have seen the Waymo in the news? Waymo's in the wrong lane, Waymo's crashing people into things. It's scary out there to assume that we can have just automation and not have to be tuned in, right? Here's a good analogy. If we wanted to right now, wherever you are, wherever your space is, we wanted to right now, we could all tune in to the same station. The music is already in the room. It's already in here. We have to tune in. So if somebody's saying, well, I can't hear it. I can't hear the music. I can't access this, right? They just need the right station. But it's already in the room, right? Everybody's got it. But if we are looking to remove all of the music, we can't. There's no possible way. We leverage the signals, we leverage the our preference, right? The machines that we use to get a good signal, a strong signal, a bad signal, depending on where you are, location, right? To different types of stations and channels. My point is that the signals are already in the room. They're in your room, they're in here. Just because we can't hear it doesn't mean it's not there. That's no different than the power of compounding. Just because we can't see it, just because we're not touching it, doesn't mean it's not working. The strategy is the most important part. That's the knowing the right station to tune into, right? Yep. That's making sure that you can, when you have the right strategy, now you're listening to the good station, all the good jams are on. But for a lot of people, if they say, oh, somebody said there was music in the room, and then they went and plugged in a radio and they didn't know what station to tune into, they would go, I don't like the radio, right? I don't like the radio. I like just these tapes because this is the only thing that I like to listen to, and they end up missing out on a lot of other things. My point is leverage. My point is mindset. My point is what we think we prefer access to, what we think is control, sometimes is not. It's the opposite of that. We're actually putting ourselves in a tighter box by not tuning in, not getting the right station. Yeah.
So I really want to devil advocate this thing.
Oh, please do. I like it when you do
as
that.
it relates to, because you said
A lot of things.
you said leverage, wanting access to more leverage early, and that being a red flag.
No, immediately.
Okay, immediately.
Early. Okay. All right. Yeah.
And I think it's really more it's more around education, strategy, structure, and goal. Because if I am a real estate entrepreneur and I need this maximum amount of leverage early, do I want to use the dollars in my checking account, or do I want to use leverage dollars? I want to use leverage dollars because I get to get multiple uses out of the same dollar. So if I know what I'm doing, me leveraging this 90%, I know it's having negative impact on my policy. But if my goal is leverage and so that I can go externally and do other things and make double digit returns, blah, 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 and I know I can outperform the impact that it's having on my policy, like I can justify that. The problem though is this isn't being I'll call it taught as specific to this type of individual. It's being spread to all of us as though
That part.
all you got to do is.
Yeah.
And so it's being sold as snake oil. It's being sold as and everybody can do it. And so it's being negatively pushed. And so therefore it's impacting a lot of people, and a lot of people are not prepared for the impact that it's going to have on their policy. So I agree with you. I'm just saying there are also scenarios where this does make sense and it is okay, but that's few and far between. So you just have to be careful. And that's where hopefully what you get out of this channel is we peel back the layers so that you can understand why thing functions the way that it does, and what questions you need to ask so that you can so that you're not putting yourself in a position to where you're negatively impacted.
Oh, here's a question. Here's a question not just to ask somebody else, but to ask yourself, what's your goal? What's your goal, and what is it that you're working with? Sometimes we don't want to share things about ourselves with somebody that we're consulting with because we just don't want people in our business, right? I can completely understand that. A lot of people feel that way. However, when you do that, sometimes you leave out a key element that somebody might have said, hey, but since you told me that, Now that changes everything. That would completely change the strategy and how you reached your goal. Or we have to be able to include this. Like, this is an obstacle I can help you overcome, or you can learn to overcome with adding these 4 extra things, right? Like, maybe it's you forgot to say that you have the radio, but the antenna was broken. And they said, hey, we got the tinfoil, right? You put the tinfoil on there, or we might have to get you a new antenna. Like, it just might be something that's not fixable, and you wouldn't want to patch it along, right? So financially, especially when you're trying to come up with a strategy, but this is why I bring it up though, Donnell, because you're right. The majority of people who get really fired up and get excited about being able to access their money immediately, or the idea of, well, I can just access this money in this policy.
All you got to do is.
They're not sure of what they're accessing it for. So I had said that in the beginning of the stream, and I know I tend to rant about that because it makes me very angry to hear people who jump on a call with you, which calls are free, by the way. So there's not like a fee. We don't charge for that. Call in, share your information, get on his calendar, and walk through so that he will help you create a map. That's essentially what he's doing on these calls. You call in and you say, listen, I'm here. I want to get there. But remember, if you're not honest about where you are, hello.
Bruh.
If you're not honest about where you are, no different than a GPS. It's not going to give you the right directions to get to where you want to go. So that's where that information is important. And if you are wanting to leverage some significant amount to be able to invest in something or purchase a home or whatever that is, but you know that this chunk of money is needing to be in 2 places at one time, just say that. Just say that there may be a different solution, or there may be a detour, right? To get back on the road that you're wanting to stay on, there may be a detour, but it may be better for you. So I'll leave it there.
Yeah,
okay.
Great point.
All right. Lucinda, by the way, has now leveled up to applying for her first HELOC and advancing in her strategy. And I just want to say congratulations, because we all know how important it is when you, even just the application part, right? Even just the, oh my gosh, I did it. Like, I did something that I didn't even know was possible or existed, like 6 months ago or 2 months ago or 1 month ago or 1 day ago, right? And now I'm on my way. I can see where I'm going. That is a cool feeling, and congratulations to you, Lucinda.
Absolutely.
Veronica says, and hello, Veronica. We
Hey,
just
Veronica.
adore Veronica. If you don't know who Veronica is, you haven't been in the chat, and you should be, because Veronica's fam down there in the chat.
Veronica owns the chat.
Veronica owns the chat. This is exactly what I need, a complete breakdown of how it all works together when I'm able to get the products to leverage. And we love feedback, just to know like what's hitting, the different styles. We've tried all kinds of different ways to get it out there, because the important part is that others understand it, right? Thank you for that. Piki says, I want the ungoogleable. So I'm just going to throw it back out there.
I did say that, didn't I?
You sure did.
Well, and that's because it literally, we put this together so fast, and I was hoping, because I don't know if you noticed, I don't know if you counted the number of questions or the criteria that I listed. It's 9. I didn't like the number 9. I wanted 10, but I couldn't come up with one more. So it's kind of is what it is.
Yeah. So top 9.
Top 9.
Top 9 qualifiers. I put the link in the chat. I'll put it in the description when we're done here. And it's also, I posted it inside the Facebook group. So if you're not in there, you can go to selfdirected.info/live, get the link to join the group for sure. Jeff Robinson says, thank you for all the info on mortgage recasting. I learned about this hidden gem in one of your previous episodes, and I'm excited to start taking advantage of it. That's it.
Mortgage companies don't like you knowing that information because they make very little money off recasts.
Okay.
Sucks to be them.
Jeff, I want to know how much money in cash flow you're freeing up just by doing this.
Yeah.
Holy
Pretty
cow.
powerful.
Yeah, that's super powerful. Okay. Louise says, is there a way to leverage an annuity outside of having to surrender the. Do we already
Oh
read this
yeah,
one?
yeah, we did that one.
Yeah. Okay. Reckless Ray. Hi, by the way. Oh, he said he's been leveling up too. So adding the velocity banking was like was like a rocket fuel for his strategy.
So, and again, I struggle here too, because reverse mortgages. I can walk you through examples where a reverse mortgage absolutely makes sense. I can, but it's definitely not the Tom Selleck one. It's definitely not, you know, what was happening prior to 2008. Reverse mortgages are really more expensive home equity lines of credit. So if the argument is, well, why don't you get a home equity line of credit? You're right. Like, you don't need a reverse mortgage, but there are some situations when you're dealing with a couple 70 plus years of age, who they don't want to wait till they're no longer here to be able to share their fruits of everything that they've done with their family. So could they get a reverse mortgage such that if one of them pass, you don't have to worry about them losing the home, and access the equity in the home now to be able to distribute to the family so that they're able to see their legacy take hold versus having to wait until they pass. They get to actually participate in the watching their legacy prosper, and whether it's through cash value life insurance policy or just as a lump sum to their family. Like, I can justify a reverse mortgage, but it's no different than the rest of the insurance world. It is so tainted with this filth that people are preying on others with these products, that it makes it seem as though a product like a reverse mortgage is bad. There are situations where it makes sense, but it's dependent upon structure, depends on who you get it from. They are expensive. There are requirements that have to be met. I can justify other products instead of a reverse mortgage, but in addition, it's there for a reason. It's there to assist. It is actually a tool that is, if designed right, can be very, very powerful, but it's not one size fits all. And the sad part about it is the people who push reverse mortgages, 9 times out of 10, they're pushing it because they want to prey on people versus help people. And that's the part that pisses me off about it. So sorry.
Yeah, and this is how we can help each other, right? We can get mad and we can just complain about it, or we can start leveling up and start getting educated and making
Yeah.
moves that, regardless of what others are talking about, regardless of what their motives are, they can't touch us because we have the control. Like, jokes on them, that they thought they could. When you take the control back, when you get educated, now no one can pull the wool over your eyes. Now no one can or is in a position to be the gatekeeper, make decisions on what you do or don't have access to. Now you're using them the way that they were using you. You're using them as leverage. You're going to them saying, look, I will use your product. Doesn't matter what I'm using it for, but if you want to make a little money, I will get your product and I will plug it into my machine for a bit, and we'll see what it does, right? And if this is a good relationship, maybe we'll do it again. But you're in a different position now going into a bank. You're in a different position filling out an application for anything. It's not, please, could you give me access? Please, sir, could you please? It's more of, I have this opportunity. Do you want to be a part of it or not?
Right.
It's different. Yeah. And it feels different too. And they know it. They know when it's different. And that's unfortunate that they don't treat everyone like that, but is what it is. Okay. So reverse mortgages, you know what I appreciate? You helped someone come up with a solid retirement plan. We were doing this for someone we both know. 5 years from zero retirement plan to having enough retirement income to support them for the rest of their life. They did not have their house paid off. They were over late 70s.
Right.
And within 5 years, they were able to be completely financially stable, and reverse mortgage was a part of that equation as a point of leverage. We should have added that to the list. Maybe we'll do one unconventional, weird leverage.
The problem is reverse mortgage is like depending on the state you're in. A
Mm-hmm.
reverse mortgage makes a big difference. Meaning, if you're in a state that treats reverse mortgages as a predatory product, wouldn't get it. But there are some state like why is this state like why is it different from one state to another? It's because it's a monopoly. Like some
Yeah,
companies.
Texas. We're talking about you.
See, I didn't do that. I didn't do that.
I did.
But my my point is,
Rhymes with
it shouldn't.
Mexis.
This shouldn't be a factor, but it is.
Yeah.
Like where you get some of these products from matters, and again, structure, who, the company that is backing it, like all of that stuff makes a difference. It all makes a difference.
Yeah. Well, Roger says he has got to go, but we'll answer his question if he's still on.
Mhm.
How do we upload our debt numbers for a future appointment date to get on your calendar? Oh, for that, we have this. This is how you go put your numbers in, and you download a copy of this or make a copy of this. And if you go to selfdirected.info/live, you can grab yourself a free copy of this Velocity Banking Workbook. This is also a great place to just put all of your financials so that you can see them all in one place. Then book a call. You'll get all the links on how to do that by going there. So this is how you do it.
Something just dawned on me. That sheet that you shared.
Mm-hmm.
So I created that sheet, and I randomly created that sheet with the random information that was in my head. I don't know that it's pretty enough from your standards to share. So would you do me a favor and just, if we're going to add it to resources, could you make it pretty?
Yeah, I will definitely make it pretty. Yeah, but I liked what you did just because I thought it was effective with the different colors and whatnot. Yeah. Well,
Okay.
now we'll make it beautiful for everyone. Okay, Gabo, you've had some great feedback in here in this chat today, and I just really appreciate everybody who's here to participate and level up and share with the community. So the chat doesn't have to be just if you have questions, or only if you can just get in there and share too, like so that we're not the experts of everything, right? So that's not the point of what we're doing here. Jump in and be a part of the community. Get in where you fit in and just add value too. Feel like you can. Gable's been doing that in the chat, but now he has a question. So do you structure your IUL with leverage with an 80 to 90% cash value in year one? Ooh, if not, why? It's a great question.
Do you? Let me rephrase the question. Can you? In most cases, if it's an IUL with leverage, I can structure it for, let's call it structured for infinite banking. And usually in those cases, it's a one pay, which means there's a large sum going in up front. And so how much of that lump sum going in up front is accessible immediately? I have not seen 80 to 90%. So could I structure? I can't structure a properly structured IUL with leverage focused on generating income to allow you to be able to have 80 to 90%. The max I've seen is right around 50, maybe 60 is about as close. But it goes back to what's the goal? If we're talking about an IUL with leverage, the goal should be long-term growth because the leverage doesn't kick in until year 3. So we are focused on making sure that this vehicle is structured so that it's building the maximum amount of cash value. And because we're focused on it building the maximum amount of cash value, the purpose of that cash value is either supplemental income, or maybe it's used to be leveraged to do other things outside of it to build double-digit returns or to gain double-digit returns. So again, it depends on the goal, but regardless of the goal, if we're talking about a properly structured IUL with leverage, the maximum I've seen the cash value initially being is somewhere around that 50 to 60%. That's the max I've seen. Great question, though.
Yeah. Jeff has a follow-up. I asked how much cash flow is being freed up by the recast that he's doing. Applying my monthly surplus towards my mortgage recast, I'll have my investment property paid off in 3.5 years. The rent I collect will turn into pure cash flow, boosting my income by $1,600 per month.
Like,
What?
and that was possible just based off information, right? You didn't have to
That's
buy the
it.
course. You didn't have to buy the course. You didn't have to opt into this thing. It's just information, and that's, to me, is how this system should be designed. It should be, here's the information. What you do with the information is on you, but here is the information, free and clear, for you to go make your own assessment, to do your own thing, and then we pay it forward by pulling other people along.
Man, and what Jeff is saying is not, I will be debt free in 3.5
Right.
years with this property. What Jeff is saying is that now I can flip and turn this property into a bank. The bank no longer, it's leverage. Yeah. In 3.5 years, and you have a full amount of leverage. Matter of fact, it could be that you never pay this, you never actually pay this off. For us, that's the case with us, right? Like, essentially, we will never pay this house off. But the truth is, we paid off the mortgage balance. We paid off the amount we purchased the home for. We paid that off a long time ago. What's on our HELOC now are our investments and other opportunities that we have used and leveraged the HELOC for, and we can and continue to for the remainder of the term, right? But the house been paid off. So kudos to you, Jeff, because you're absolutely right. This is the power of just having information, just words. That's it.
That's it.
Why aren't more people spreading this out, right? We need to share it. We need to share this out. Okay. Drib says, Garcia says, I have a 2.87% 30-year mortgage, 3 years in now. I'm thinking of first position HELOC, but don't know how to start. Ooh.
Well, I'd say there's not enough detail here to assess. There was obviously, because she said ooh, because there's these flashing red lights that are going, that, wait a minute, what? So I think there needs to be more detail there. I'd happily have this conversation with you, but here's where I'm going. You're 27, you have 27 years left on this mortgage. Is a first position better? I can't say, but I can say a second position home equity line of credit can accomplish the same goal. If the goal is to pay off the home, there's a way to do this with a second position that may be less of a burden to you. So there's definitely an opportunity here. I like the 2.87% interest rate. Can you get a first position HELOC? Probably. Do you need a first position HELOC? I don't know. So let's I'd love to have that discussion with you, and let's identify what the best turn of events would be.
Yeah, and really it comes down to being able to make those decisions, make the decisions that will help us reach our goal. And that is why, where'd it go? That's why we give away the boat. I don't know what happened to mine. Oh, here it is.
I got one.
Yeah. Oh, I had to reach for it. Okay. That's why we give away the boat. Yes, if you've gotten a boat, then you know how important this is. And you know the question, will it make the boat go faster? And why we ask this question, it's become like a beacon of almost like an anchor question in our family. And we hope that it will be the same in yours. So if you use it, please put it in there. Comment, how has this concept helped you? And if you haven't gotten a boat yet, now's the time to get it. We're going to play the boat video, and then we're going to spin to win afterwards. But this right here, this video is why we give away the boat. In 1998, a British rowing team dreaming of the Olympic gold found themselves ranked 7th. Their focus had always been on the competition day, but they realized the keys to reaching their highest potential were hiding in the decisions that they'd make over those next 2 years.
Faced with two obvious choices, continue their current path and expect the same result, or give up, they discovered a third transformative option. They united under one guiding question: will it make the boat go faster? Every decision, every action was weighed against this mantra. If the answer was yes, they could or would have to do it.
If the answer was no, it was forbidden, non-negotiable. Prior to the competition, this team was doubted and ridiculed, but no one knew what they had been doing. And once they hit the water, they were nearly unrecognizable, achieved their pinnacle, and won the gold. So we ask you,
What is your goal? What are you willing to do to achieve it?
Will your story feel unrecognizable, even to you? Are you willing to light your beacon and stay focused, stay committed? Is your story non-negotiable, or are you waiting to find out how you ranked? Your financial future is not a game. You are only competing with yourself and those in the boat with you, your family and the many generations to come.
Will this make the boat go faster? A sounding alarm, a beacon of clarity amidst turbulent life decisions.
It's not just about speed, but direction, purpose, and an unwavering commitment. Every choice, every sacrifice aimed at the goal.
The first agreement this team made was to become fully self-directed, making their health their wealth, adopting a new perspective on their time and freedom, and the decisions they could fully control to reach their goal.
Will we make your boat go faster? That is our pledge to you. Our mission is to arm you with knowledge, strategies, and insights to ensure that not only you reach the goal, but you do so long before your race is over.
Okay. Well, it looks like it's working. Crossing your fingers. Let them come in and we'll see how many we got. We got some new people. I love it when new people get the boats. But if you've been here for a while and you're watching, you can get another one.
Good luck, good luck.
Lucinda says, my boat is on the dresser and I made a leverage vision board, which is in the hallway. I have to pass by all the time, which is a constant reminder to stay focused. Love that. Yes. All right, let's see who's going to win. Who else is getting one? Congratulations. If you could pull up the...
I got it.
Okay. Here's how to get your boat. Go to selfdirected.info/live or //winner, and then just put your information in there to claim your boat, and we will send that to you. And I have to give you guys a update. The form I don't think was working. Something got disconnected there, so I thought nobody was claiming their boats, but turns out I've got some boats to send out because they just didn't come in the same way. My bad. So if you're watching and you won one and you didn't get it, that's on me, and it's probably just because we've been working on this new studio space, which we couldn't be more thrilled about getting into. So that's what we're going to do when we get off here. We're going to go start moving the stuffs in so that we can get set up, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we can go live from there next Sunday from the same space, not just from the same house, right? Tech issues gone, and we can truly have a different type of environment. Yeah. Fingers crossed, everything works well for us. Send us that good juju so that all the tech stuff will work out, and hopefully next Sunday, that's what we'll be. But speaking of Sundays, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, all the standard times in between that's when we go live here on this channel.
When does the time change?
I don't know, but we're in Arizona, you guys. The time doesn't change. I don't know why this is a thing. We should have fixed this by now, but we don't. So now I just have this kind of PTSD about the time change twice a year when I have to remember what time it is everywhere else. And then what time it's not anymore. So anywho, that's a problem for future us when the daylight savings time comes again. And we'll be here regardless, 6 p.m. Arizona time to put it out on everybody else.
Right.
Right now it's Pacific Standard Time. Anywho, we thank you all so much for tuning in. We know that time is the most valuable asset that we have, and we are so grateful that you're spending it here with us. So we like to end with, if you didn't come from a wealthy family,
You can make sure a wealthy family comes from you.
so stay tuned,
Stay protected.
stay focused.
Stay connected.
I'm Angelique,
And I'm Donnell.
and our goal is to help you
get self-directed.
And to do that, we have free resources, the community, and the chat right here. So come back. We got a ton of live streams that you can go and catch up on right now. We will see you back here on Sunday. Thanks so much for tuning in. Have a great night, guys.
Hey, before you go, we want to remind you that becoming fully self-directed means gaining complete control over your wealth, time, and freedom. It's not just an idea. It's a framework, a mindset, and the power to make informed decisions to secure your future. Being here means you're taking those steps, and we want to thank you for allowing us to guide you. We believe that we grow farther and faster when we grow together. So tune in next time and tell a friend to tell a friend. We've helped thousands of people just like you start their journey to financial freedom. And if they can do it, you can too. And if you're ready to learn more, we got you. Get a head start by grabbing these 2 free books. But how do they get them, Donnell?
Head over to my website where you'll have access to a few things. A ton of free resources, case studies, and over 100 5-star reviews from people just like you. And in 15 minutes, we can explore what's possible for you. So don't wait.
Invest in what you want, when you want.
But first, let us help you get
Get self-directed.